Sup, Nerdmigos? I'm the disembodied voice of the Jive talking nerd, John Norgrove. We've got Wife here yet again. Today we are doing pot of corpses. What are we doing?
Pot of corpses. Pot of bones?
Pot of bones.
Pot of bones.
It's a marijuana of skeletons.
That I don't think that's what that is. We're
Technically not wrong, bro.
I think that is wrong.
I mean, but the words are the same, right? Because you call weed pot.
Oh my gosh, I just got that.
Oh, okay.
Wah, wah.
Wow, holy shit.
Look at you coming in hot with
Bam.
the dad jokes.
Got all these dad jokes. Locked and loaded, guys. Secret time. You didn't know about that. All right, anyway.
Anyway, we're making bone broth, and bone broth is different than stock. Stock is generally some bones or bouillon.
Trading of investments.
Yeah, trading of investments and securities.
Or whatever the fuck that is.
Bone broth is where you take bones and you just make a broth. So stock you generally add, like vegetables and stuff as flavorings, and with bone broth you actually don't want to do that. So think of bone broth as those little bouillon cubes or, any of that kind of stuff, but like way more concentrated and actually super good for you. So I do what I like to call kitchen sink bone broth. So every time we eat something that is bone in, so that's not fish, that is. So any kind of steaks or ribs, pork or beef, any roasts, anything that's chicken, anything that we have that's a meat, that we have the opportunity to get bone in meat, we do that. And what you do is after you're done eating or whatever it is that you're doing, cutting the meat off the bone, you would normally just throw the bone away. Instead of throwing it away, put it into a Ziploc bag and pop it in your freezer. And you want to use a big Ziploc bag, unless you want to do many tiny batches of this, which would be very silly to do. But use a gallon Ziploc bag, and once you're done having something that is bone in, you put the bone and any gristle and cartilage or fat or skin that you're cutting off into that bag. Once that bag gets full with all of that stuff, then you can go ahead and make bone broth. You can do the same thing with fish. But never ever mix fish and everything else. So kitchen sink bone broth, or really any kind of bone broth, never mix land and sea.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, you can mix air and land, but never surf and turf.
I mean, I guess air. Chickens don't really fly.
Yeah, I feel like chickens really are more turf than air.
And skybirds.
Yeah, they're not really skybirds. I mean, I guess you could eat skybirds too, but like... Are we talking about pigeon? Do pigeons mostly...
Ducks. They would obviously be talking about ducks.
But do ducks mostly... I'm trying to think of a bird that mostly flies.
Ducks. You shoot them out of the sky.
Oh, I guess.
What are you talking about?
I forgot about Duck Hunt.
The video game, not the actual task.
So I have been saving up a bag of bones, of things, so a variety of things. So there's some pork bones in here. There's some beef ribs in here. There's a bunch of chicken bones in here. And we're just going to go ahead and put them into my Instapot. If you have an Instapot, good for you. They're awesome. And you can totally do this with an Instapot. But if you don't have an Instapot, you can do this with this exact same process with a slow cooker. And if you don't have either of those, what are you doing with your life? Slow cookers are like $20. Treat yourself. But if you don't have any of those, or you refuse to use those for reasons unbeknownst to me.
Like a crock pot?
Yeah, either an Instapot or a crock pot. You could actually do this on the stove. It's just going to take you a very long time. So this is a very old-fashioned way of making bone broth. And really the reason that we're doing it this way is so that you can extract all of the goodness from the bones. So you can extract all of that, collagen and minerals and stuff like that. So if any of you are doing like collagen peptide powders, bone broth is actually a great substitute for doing a collagen peptide powder.
A great natural, like non-extracted by a factory
processed kind of thing. And if you
it's
can get,
also real good for you during like cold and flu season.
Yep. Bone broth is
this will really
the
help
best.
boost your immune system. It really fortifies you. You can drink it as like a soup.
You can add it
you can
add it to soups and stews. You can add it to sauces.
I straight up use these little broth cubes when I like as my base when I make like chili or gumbo or anything like that.
Yep. And you can also just drink it with some hot water or just heating up the broth, depending on how you do it. You'll see what that means when we get later in. And you can just drink it like out of a mug. If you've never had broth warm out of a mug, boy, let me tell you, you are missing out. Also, you can call it meat tea, and that's super fun. Yeah. So anyway,
you dip a sandwich in it. It's real good. Dip a roast
you
beef
can,
in it.
yeah, like
almost like an au jus, but like
thicker. So bone broth is versatile AF, y'all. So we have poured these all of these bones into the Instapot. If you're using a crock pot, just pour it in there. And if you're using a regular stovetop pot, go ahead and do it in there. Let me tell you right now, the secret ingredient to my bone broth is hot wing bones. This was a chicken hot wing from Wingstop. Wingstop and any hot wings, that is the secret to a delicious, delicious broth. So pop all of these bones in here. You're gonna want to take about 1/8 of a cup of some sort of an acid. You can use lemon juice or vinegar. I just used apple cider vinegar, like the good stuff. And then you want to mostly cover these bones with water. So you can see these are mostly covered. I'm actually almost at the max level here for my little doodad. And we're actually just gonna go ahead and we're gonna cover this with the lid. And we're gonna pop this baby on slow cook. So if you're using an Instapot, yes, you can do the pressure cook functionality on this, but I recommend against it. The process, it doesn't make it take any faster. It doesn't help to do anything.
Make it take less time.
Yeah, it doesn't make it take less time. So you can really get bone broth in a couple of hours, but the best for this is 2 days. And I know that seems like a really long time, but you really want to wait until the bones are like crumbly in your hands where you can just break them without any effort at all to get all of those like delicious minerals out.
Yeah,
Plus it makes your house smell amazing.
All the minerals out. It gets all the collagen and that kind of stuff out.
Yeah, now if you're doing this in the Instapot or the slow cooker, you just set this baby to slow cook on the longest time that you can possibly tell it to do. And then you let it go. You're going to want to leave it open for venting so that air can escape. And we're going to be actually leaving this for the first whole day. So this time tomorrow, you'll be seeing us again. Although really in the video, it will just be like 30 seconds from now. Probably a little more than that. But you get the idea. And you'll see what happens there. Now, if you've decided to do this on the stove pot, you're going to want to turn on your stove to high, and you want to boil that. You're gonna have to boil it for probably 6 hours. This is a long time thing, which is why I said get a slow cooker.
It's less work.
An really, Instapot. It's way less work.
What was that, like Ron Popeil, set it and forget it? You just set it for time and then you
forget
leave.
it. And I am someone who likes to do things like the old-fashioned way from scratch, and this is really the best way to do it. So we'll be seeing you guys in about 24 hours or so when it's time to check in on the bone broth again.
All right. See you then. All right, guys. Hey, so we're back. It's been, I don't know, between 1 and 127 hours. Nobody's missing hands or feet. So, rocks weren't involved, I guess, or whatever. Either way, so what, are we doing?
So, the bone broth has been in the crock pot for 24 hours now, and this is halfway through. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be removing the lid from this once it comes off. And
lift it with your muscles.
Yeah. Well,
it's
got like this. It's got this like vacuum seal, so you kind of have to like. So when we do that, we can see that there's like a bunch of bones in here, and it's kind of browned a little bit. You can see a layer of.
There are bones in there, guys.
There's bones. Who would have thought? So you can see there's like there's like a layer of fat on the top, and there's bones. So what you're gonna do now is you're gonna take like a wooden spoon or like a potato masher, and you're just gonna like push this stuff down, and you really kind of want to give it a little bit of force because you want this stuff to be kind of like mixed up a little bit, and
so
just to kind of
is to both mash.
Mash and mix.
To both stir and like keep shit under the water.
Yeah, and you want to kind of break it up a little bit so that you can see that like the fat is in little tiny globules instead of like a big piece here. But it's also that you want to push these bones further down, because what you're going to be doing for the next 24 hours is you're just going to leave this baby on and you're going to leave it uncovered so that you can start to have...
Focus!
So you're going to start to have the water evaporate out. So now we're just going to leave that, and we will see you in about 24 hours.
Okay, so before we just wrap this up, first of all, that you just saw, it's a superior potato masher. You fucking deal with those facts. I'm sorry, the one that's just a flat plate with holes in it
is the thing that I've been using for years, and I hate it.
It's
I don't mind using it, but I hate washing it.
Don't worry, it's gone. Or we showed you.
He bought this, and I am fully converted.
Yeah.
To this.
Yeah. Fuck those
snowflake
Target potato mashers. We want that snowflake potato masher.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're letting this drain for air for 24 hours.
Yeah, it's basically like the slowest simmer ever.
And that's to reduce as well as to...
Yes. So what we're doing is we want to reduce this like a little bit, but we also want to keep going with it. So you could go the full 2 days, not touch it at all. But this tends to be an easier way to work with it. If you happen to be doing this on the stovetop and you're not doing this in a crock pot or anything like that, then this is basically about halfway through. So if you're doing full boil on this, that would be about 2 hours in. You would want to mash it and kind of push it down. But at the same time, if you're boiling it for 2 hours, all the bones and stuff are moving around anyway, so you can kind of leave it alone. If you are concerned about stuff getting into this, lint, debris.
What do you have? Just lint floating around
like
your fucking house?
Cat, maybe.
Do you have a cat or some shit?
People are very not wanting to leave stuff just like open on the counter, which is something that's kind of like heritage, been done for hundreds of years.
It's also hot.
Then you can put like some cheesecloth, some muslin over this. You could put like one of those splatter guards over it.
Oh yeah, our splatter guard.
Yeah,
totally
but
help.
really, what you want, you really don't want to put anything over it if you can get away with it.
Because you want as much efficiency.
Because you want that water to evaporate down. Because the water evaporating down means that you have less waste, and it also is going to mean that you have a more strong concentrated liquid or cube, however it is. There's a few ways that you can kind of finish this.
We'll get into those in 24
when it's all
more
done.
hours when we have a chance to get to that place. But yeah, so either way,
we'll see you in a day.
I guess we'll see you in another day. This is going to be like a bloody 5 days worth of videos. So.
Yeah. It's never gonna end.
All right, guys.
It's never gonna end.
But hey, listen, you get like sweet, delicious bone soup.
That's right. You get some delicious meat tea. Meat tea.
All right, guys. So we will catch you guys in 24 hours. Stay safe out there, and don't forget, drink a cup of meat tea every day. It keeps the doctors away, or the demons, or something.
Keeps somebody away.
It keeps somebody away. Keep me away. Nah, I love meat tea.
Not.
All right. Cheers. We're back.
We're back.
It's been
several days.
A while.
That's the beauty of bone broth like this, is you can just, if you have a busy day and you can't handle doing it, you just leave that in the crock pot for another day. You can't do that on the stove. You can't do that on the stove, though. That's not good.
It's
been several days, and which is fine.
It's been cooking down this entire time.
Yeah. So, before you open this up and you're ready to strain and drain all of the liquid in the bones, you want to turn this off about an hour before you do that. And that's so that you can lose some of the temperature inside so that it's not molten hot. And it's also so that it's not cold and congealed. So now that we've got this beautiful, beautiful bone broth, we're going to go ahead and we're going to pull this out and we're going to pour it into the strainer
It is soup.
of a nice big pot.
Let's go look at soup.
Yeah. Well, it's not really
so we've got a strainer set up in the pot there.
Yep. There's nothing exciting about this. This just happens to be a big pot and a big strainer.
Okay. There we go. Focus, you fuck. I get it. I get why everybody yells at their cameras.
I get it too.
That's why you let it sit, so you don't splatter yourself with it. I don't know about y'all, but far and away, most of the people I know who have been, like, severely burned before, it was due to kitchen cooking stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that is the most likely burn humanly possible.
So now you're just going to let it drain and kind of cool down a little bit. You know that it's really ready when the bones just crumble. I could just put this in my mouth and eat it.
Yeah.
It just
to be,
literally
like,
falls apart. That's really the ideal. So these bigger, like, beef bones, you're not really going to get that. But you want it so that it's like chicken bone fall apart. So once this has been drained, and it's not going to be completely dry, right? You're going to have some of this, you know, some
moisture still on there?
Moisture, like, on the bones and stuff. But once you've got it mostly dry, so it's no longer, like, dripping with liquid, you're going to throw these bones out. Please make sure that you double bag them and don't have them around your pets and all that other stuff. I'd recommend throwing it away immediately.
Yeah, just
in a sealed bag. Just take it out to the trash.
Don't be a bum.
Because otherwise your house is going to smell weird for a few days. It's not quite right.
There we go. It's focused. We'll figure it out.
So once this is done draining, then your bone broth is ready to use. So from here, you can really do this in a couple of ways. If you have something that you're making right away, go ahead and make that with this bone broth. This is a very concentrated bone broth, and really what you're doing when you're cooking with this is you're deciding what level of flavor you want. Do you want it to be very gently brothy? Do you want it to be a strong, full force kind of a taste to it?
That sounds like a porn star's name, Gently Brothy.
Gently Brothy? Yeah. It's like a chicken porn star, Gently Brothy.
I don't know what a chicken porn star would be.
Well, in a world where
people are animals and animals are people.
Yes, in an anthropomorphic world like Zootopia, that Gently Brothy would be a chicken porn star.
Or that horse one on Netflix. I like
that show. BoJack Horseman. I'm not a fan.
I really like that show. It's a good show. Check it out.
I'm not a fan. So now you can treat this in a few ways if you don't have something else that you're gonna like cook with. So some people like to just freeze this in basically cupcake tins. And you can do that. That's about anywhere between 1/3 to 1/2 of a cup, depending on how full you're making those.
Recommend silicone on that, not
recommend silicone. I have learned paper. The hard way.
or
just
crap
like
aluminum foil ones,
or just
straight in the metal.
Yeah, or just raw dogging it in the metal. Yeah, whatever you're doing, I recommend that you do it with a silicone liner. So you can do it in a muffin tin. Where the broth is right now, it is about double strength. So if you did this in a muffin tin, 1/2 cup, one of those little muffin chunks is going to get you basically 1 cup of broth or more. Depending on how flavorful you want it to be. But I actually boil this down until it gets to a point where all that's really left is the gelatin and the goodness. And so to do that, you would just pour this stuff back into your pot, and you would either do this on slow cook if you want to do it slow, or you would put it on saute if you want to do it fast. And you're just going to boil it down. And you're going to boil it down until it's the consistency of like maple syrup. It's not going to burn, trust me. It just loses. You would have to try really. No, it won't burn at all. So it won't burn. So if you want it to be that way, that's what I do, and then I put it into an Old Gross ice cube tray that we don't use for regular ice cubes.
Don't we use it for squares? Or the square one for that?
Yeah. So we do that, and then I just pop those in the freezer, and one little ice cube. Broth cube is about 6 cups of broth. So you're looking at really minimizing how much space you're using up in your freezer, which is really cool. So I like to do that.
Also, if you use, again, don't use like a regular ice tray.
Yeah.
You want to use the silicone trays. Go on Amazon and pick it up. They have them, and it's just like a cube, right? They're like perfectly square, flat wall ice cubes. Plus, if you put them in a bag like that, they'll stack like bricks. So it takes up like this. It's like a back corner thing. So you basically the plot here, right? For this recipe is that you always have 2 bags in your freezer. One with bones to be processed,
and one with
broth cubes.
So that you can just pull out broth cubes whenever you want. You're gonna make rice tonight. Grab a broth cube. Throw it in the rice.
Well,
you're gonna make some soup.
For like
grab
chili,
a few of them.
For soup, for gumbo. If I need to like boost my umami,
if you want to just drink a cup of broth.
Yeah, just like shave
if
off
you're not
a little
feeling
bit.
well, if you're feeling under the weather, you can just like make yourself a cup of broth. It's delicious. This doesn't have any salt in it, and I would recommend that you don't salt it until you're actually making
until you're ready to make your food. Yeah.
And then the last way that people do this is they let it boil down until it becomes like the consistency of taffy, and then they spread it out onto parchment paper in a baking pan, and then they bake it at a low heat. And this essentially will turn it into like a hard, brittle, pull apart, break apart kind of a situation.
Like
then
that,
you can
like
grind
that, like
it.
that hard glass candy.
Yeah,
like
and then you
brittle.
can grind it, and it'll be like bouillon cubes, and that has an
like
even
bouillon
longer
powder.
shelf life.
Yeah.
But I have found that boiling it down into broth cubes is the thing that works best for me. So that's what I'm going to be doing next. Boiling it down until it gets to broth cubes takes probably another 4 hours in the Instapot.
Yeah,
So-
on saute.
Yeah.
Another thing you can do is, if you have the stuff and you do a lot of canning, you can just take the broth at this stage right now.
And you could just can it.
Just put it in cans, and then do all your standard canning
Yeah.
processes
Yeah.
to make it safe, and then it's gonna gain a lot of shelf life.
Uh-huh.
I mean, so this is sort of one of those things where you can kind of do whatever you want with it and whatever fits the best.
Yeah,
for
it's
you
more of a
with it.
method and less of a recipe. And there's an additional step too if you want to take this, and that's taking the fat out. So if you want to take the fat out, after this is drained, you want to put this broth into a cool place so that the fat rises to the top and congeals. And at that point, you're going to want to use something flat, something like these bamboo utensils, or like a serving spoon, a spatula.
spoon.
Don't use a fork. You could use your hands, but that's kind of gross.
Yeah, don't use your fucking hands.
And you would just scrape the fat off. I usually scrape the fat off in the summertime, but keep it on in the wintertime. But sometimes I'm just lazy and I don't feel like scraping the fat off, and so the fat just stays on top. To be honest with you, it's not that much fat, especially if you're not using really fatty like bone stuff.
Yeah,
in
like
here.
if
Like, if you're
doing,
putting all the
mostly
fat-
chicken and like ribs and gristle and shit, it's like a lot of collagen and not a lot of fat. I mean, if you're doing like a fucking ham hock with all the like extra cartilage,
With all
and
the
fat
bits,
stuff,
you're gonna have a lot of
It's gonna
fat.
be super fat. We did it one time with it was like pork, and we had some lamb bones from that
Yeah.
time. Dom made a rack of lambs for
Yeah.
us, and like that was like fat.
Yeah. In general,
A
if
lot
you're
of fat.
looking for something that has a really strong umami taste and that's very nutritious, you want to keep the fat on. Fat is not your enemy. Fat is your friend.
That's true.
And it does have its place in dishes.
just tasty,
And it makes certain things taste better. Like if you really like making broth, if you really like using broth to make rice or any sort of like pasta type dishes.
Yeah, starchy foods. It's really
anything
good.
like that, you really want the fat in there, because what it does is it makes it a little more like a peel off. So it's like coated. So it's infused with the broth, and then it's coated with the fat, and it makes it that much more delicious and umami. So this is particularly important with like orzo, risotto, regular rice, any of that kind of stuff, couscous.
Yeah,
All
you-
that
you
stuff.
You want that full fat, but you can extract the fat if you're in a low fat sort of situation or what have you. And there's going to be some particulate. You could run it through cheesecloth. I mean, like you can do as much as you want with it.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want
But
with
in
it there.
reality, like you really kind of don't need to.
Uh-huh. Yeah. In terms of how long it keeps, I usually get this stuff straight into the freezer. In the fridge, because of the high gelatin content, it will last a while. You want to use it within probably a week. So if you have something that you're planning to do,
Yeah,
do it right
week
away.
and a half.
But otherwise, you really want to get it into the freezer. In the freezer, this stuff, well, we've never really had it take a long time.
It's never lasted long
But
enough that we found
I
out.
would say you probably want to use it up within 6 months. And you can do the same process as we did with this for a seafood broth, or for just a chicken broth, or for just a beef broth, or for just a pork broth.
Just label your bags
yeah,
in the fridge.
Just make sure that you know.
You don't want to be
Which one making
making
is which.
seafood and put beef broth in.
Yeah. Now this does not
nasty.
work if you're making vegetable broth, because vegetable broth is really actually a stock, because you're just simmering vegetables in a liquid. So this does not
Sounds like
have
gross hippie tea.
this does not have a vegan way to do it, because this is very specifically bone broth, and plants don't have bones.
Most of them don't. Yeah. All right. So
Yeah.
we're
So this has been
gonna-
bone broth.
Yeah, we're gonna finish straining, draining, and then we're going to reduce it and we're going to make those. But we're going to leave you guys here.
Yep.
Maybe we'll have wife post a picture on Instagram or something like that. Maybe I'll post a picture on Instagram of tiny cubes. We'll see if I remember. Who fucking knows? But yeah, either way, disembodied voice John Norgrove. We've got wife. This was wife Jive. This is broth.
Bone broth.
Bone broth made out of bones.
Yeah, made out of bones.
Don't worry,
Make yourself some meat tea. So be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. Let me know if you've made bone broth. How do you make it? Did this help you at all? Do you want to see more? Do you want to see me cook more things? I'm just telling you stuff that I know how to do off the top of my head.
Do you want me to cook some things?
Do you want him to cook some things?
You do. I'm very meticulous and very chaotic about the way that I cook. Also, everything I cook is delicious. It's too spicy for you, but that's because
it's too spicy for everyone.
It's because you're all soft.
Everyone.
All right. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.